Alright, you can see that I have a couple lines here. So anytime I move a line, this new angle is calculated. So as you can see, I've labeled this angle 1. It's angle ABC here. And as I move this line, it recalculates how big that angle is. And you can see as I move the line, it affects a lot of things. It doesn't affect any angles down here because those aren't being moved. But as I move this, all four of these angles are changing. You'll notice that these are what we call vertical angles, and these are what we call vertical angles. Notice they're the same. Same thing down here, 132, 132, those are vertical, and these are vertical. We've talked about that before. Also, a term is linear pair. Notice this angle and this angle together, if I had angle 3 here and angle 1 here together, they form a straight line, which is 180, and notice these add to 180. These are also a linear pair. They add to 180. Likewise, these add to 180, and these two add to 180, because if you see where they're at, those angles add up to a straight line, 180 degrees. As I move this, as I mentioned, notice I still have vertical angles. Those are alike. These are still alike, and these two still add up to 180, and so on. What's interesting, though, is I'm going to work with this line and this line. What this line is called right here is called the transversal, and I can move that line also. So we're going to learn today about 4 different relationships between angles. You already know 2, and we've just talked about that. One angle name or relationship is called vertical angles. Those have a relationship, they're the same, they're called vertical, they're always the same. Another relationship you already know is, as I mentioned, a linear pair. 2 angles that form together a straight line and add up to 180. Again, down here, these and these, those 2 angles together add up to 180. So there are 4 new pairings for today. The first one is called alternate exterior. So think about this inside here where my cursor is as like a river. So you can see on the outside is angle 1, 2, 7, and 8. Those are what we call exterior angles. And then on the interior, we would call these interiors. They're on the inside or in the river. So the first pairing is called alternate exterior. So 1 and 8 are considered alternate exterior because they're on alternating sides of the transversal and they're both on the outside. You're always going to pick one angle from one of these 4 and one angle from down here. So 1 and 8 are alternate exterior. Also, 2 and 7 are also exterior and on alternating sides of the transversal. Remember, this is the transversal, so this was like above it and this was below it. Alternate exterior. Another relationship pair that you're going to learn today is called alternate interior. Very, very similar. So on the interior, I pick one of these 4 angles. Well, I can't pick those because those are on the exterior. So this angle and angle 6 would be alternate interior. They're both on the interior and they're on alternating sides of this transversal. Also, 4 and 5 are called alternate interior angles. Another pair is called same side interior. Well, that would be 4 and 6. They're on the same side of the transversal. They're both above the transversal. And then 3 and 5 are called same side interior. So far we've done 3. Alternate exterior angles, alternate interior angles, same side interior angles. And then the last one is called corresponding. So corresponding, think if you were like on a plane or something and the person in front of you is also next to the aisle and the person in front of them is also next to the aisle. You're all in the same corresponding seat. Maybe the person 2 over from you is next to the window and the person in front of them is next to the window. All of those people are in the same corresponding seat. So think of angle 1. Angle 1 is sort of in the top left or maybe northwest part of this 4. Which one down here is in the same seat or position as angle 1? That'd be angle 5. They're both in the top left. So those are what we call corresponding angles. 2 and 6 are corresponding. They're both in the top right section. 4 and 8 are corresponding, bottom right. And 3 and 7 are corresponding. So those are the 4 pair. Now here's what's really special about those 4 pair. Not only do they have that name, but if this line and this line are parallel, something really interesting happens. Right now they're not parallel, but watch what happens when I make them parallel. Now they're exactly parallel. Notice what happens between these 4, 48, 32, 32, 48. They're exactly the same down here. When I change it, when these lines are not parallel, you can still call them corresponding. So 1 and 5 are still corresponding. But as soon as I make these lines parallel, now these correspondings are congruent or equal measure. These corresponding angles are congruent or equal measure. Also, remember we talked about alternate exterior. Look at those. Those are the same. 132, 132, those are what we call congruent or equal measure. Alternate interior, look what happens to those when the lines are parallel. We have, we did corresponding, this would be corresponding. We did alternate exterior, that would be an example of alternate exterior. We did alternate interior, that would be an example. The fourth one, which is the most different, is same side interior, because when you look at same side interior, 4 and 6, are those congruent or equal to each other? No, they're not. But do they add up to a special number? Yes, they add up to 180. Same thing here, these same side interiors add up to 180. So those are the 4 for today, the relationships you need to know, and especially what happens when the lines are parallel. So let me move it one more time. So now let's say I want to make these parallel. Okay, let's go through our 4 one more time. And you can do them in any order. So we have alternate exterior, those are congruent. Alternate interior, those are congruent. Corresponding, so bottom right section, those are congruent. Now same side interior are supplementary. I always try to remember it as same side sup. So these two are not equal to one another. They add up to 180 or are supplementary.